So I was watching a video and somebody had commented this. She said her dad's mother, which would be her grandmother on her father's side, her dad's mother was sold to her grandfather by her father. So her great-grandfather sold her grandmother on her father's side to her dad's father, the grandpa. She was 14 and grandpa was 25. So her grandma was sold by her father to her grandpa. So this is why I made that video about me believing Beyonce's in a conservatorship, like most women and people in Hollywood are, who end up in Hollywood at a really young age, like Beyonce, like Aaliyah, like Rihanna, who were most likely sold by their fathers into Hollywood, like most children are. Most children are sold into Hollywood by their parents. That's why T.I. was checking his stepdaughter's hymen at 18 years old. Why did he want to make sure that his 18-year-old stepdaughter was a virgin? Don't use common sense. Doesn't T.I. practice Islam? But nonetheless, of the religious excuse, most fathers for a very long time have been selling their daughters or virgin daughters into marriage for money, fame, profit, property, business deals, because that's exactly the reason why marriage was actually created, because marriage has literally nothing to do with love. Do you know how many fathers sell their daughters or have sold their daughters? Marriage was literally created to sell girls into indentured servitude. That's what the purpose of marriage was. That's why you take the man's last name and you have a contract. The contract is a business agreement that you are now this man's property. Marriage never had anything to do with love. It was never created on the pretense or foundation of love. Marriage was created so fathers could sell their daughters for money, profit, land, business deals. Like a pimp brands you, right? Or a slave owner brands you. Your branding is taking the last name. That's your brand. You take the man's last name because that is you being branded by your master. That's why I find it so funny that they have turned marriage into something about love when marriage never had anything to do with love. Marriage was always about fiscal and created for financial purposes. It was literally created to sell girls as sex slaves and slaves to men, because that's what being a wife is. You're an indentured servant. The history of marriage is literally based on girls being indentured servants to men. You are sold as a sex slave/slave because you're gonna have to cook, clean, and pop out babies in general, but you're literally sold into indentured servitude. See, now that they've created the propaganda or manipulation that a woman needs a husband in marriage to feel worthy, women have been gaslit and brainwashed into believing marriage is about love, when if you look at the history of marriage, it never had anything to do with love. If it did, you wouldn't need a fucking contract by a court of law enforcing it. Like, why do you think you take the man's last name? It represents ownership. And they do say men are the most suicidal and commit suicide the most, but married women commit suicide just as much as single men or men in general. So the suicide rates of men versus women is different. Yes, there's more men who are suicidal, but if you compare married women, well, the rate is the same. Married women commit suicide just as much as men do. Married women are another top group of people who commit suicide a lot. Married women are statistically, next to single men, the most unhappy group of people, and are just as suicidal and commit suicide at the same rates. Yes. So you can say men commit suicide more, but that's if you don't factor in married women. If you were to just compare married women, well, married women commit suicide at the same rate as men. So I really hate to be the bubble burster, because that's what I do, is burst bubbles. But marriage had never had anything to do with love. The history of marriage and the origin of marriage and the entire reason marriage was created was so men can sell their daughters as property and indentured servants to other men. Has nothing to do with love. But you're willingly choosing to be an indentured servant to a man, so you took out a whole lot of work for them. Because back in the day, the dads would have to sell you. That's why they had arranged marriages. You didn't have a choice of who you wanted to marry. You got sold, baby. Now women are just willingly walking into indentured servitude for weddings and a ring and this fairy tale love that doesn't exist. You're gonna get cheated on. You're gonna experience turmoil and trials and tribulation. Marriage was created to benefit the man. It was never created to benefit the woman. And most men don't even have anything financially for women to take in a divorce. They don't even do alimony anymore in most states. So if you do get a divorce, unlike what these men like to say of how they get destroyed in the divorce, oh, the contraire. Most women walk away from divorces homeless, broke, and some of them end up losing custody of the children because the husband will fight them on custody. You'll leave that marriage with less than what you came in with as a woman. Most men don't have shit to take in a divorce. All these men complaining about how women ruin them in the marriage and take them for all they got. All they got is some dick and some bubble gum. Like, you don't got shit to take. Because based on statistics, majority of us are living in poverty and can barely afford to live. And most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and are one paycheck away from homelessness. Not that many people have a lot of money. Most of us are poor. So, you not getting shit, honey. I've always known the history of marriage. And I've always tried to educate people on this. And I get told, oh, I'm bitter and I'm damaged. And this is the literal history of marriage and origin of marriage and purpose of marriage. Why do you think you have a contract? A marriage contract. Just like you have a deed on a house, or you have a contract that shows you own your car, a title. A deed is a house title, right? Then you have a car title. A marriage contract is a human title. It's a title for you, my love. It's a title on you, my love. Do you get it? If it was about love, do you love a car? Do you love a house? Really? It's an item. It's property. It's an asset. What do you need a title for? An asset. Something you own. You are owned. You are an asset. You are property.